Happy Halloween! Okay, so I may be a little bit late to this, but regardless, it's me Snowbird, and welcome to the spookiest episode of Late Night Latte. Ooh. A few months back, I asked you guys on my community post and my Instagram story to send in your spookiest, scariest experience. Whether it be ghosts or demons or some story related to the horrifying reality that humans are much more capable of any damage that any demonic entity could ever think of. And listen, you guys never fail to deliver. Now hear me out, cause me personally, I don't believe in ghosts, but I love ghost stories. I love horror games and movies, and I love creepypastas. Shout out to Jeff the Killer, you made my childhood. And y'all, back then, I was obsessed with ghost hunting videos, and the ones I'd watch would be so funny. Like, they'd be walking in a dark tunnel so seriously and someone would let out a fart, and they'd be like, "Oh my god, what was that? Guys, I'm so scared right now, my hands are shaking." So yeah, I'm a fan, dude. Sign me up. And so I'm trying to bring back some nostalgia with that. But enough of my rant. Let's just jump straight into story number 1. Okay, y'all. So this story is about a cryptid, and from the very little research I did, I'm pretty sure this cryptid came from Indonesia. So shout out to my Indonesian goats out there. Let's freaking go, dude. Also, shout out to the goat owner Kisho for helping me out with the pronunciation of the cryptid because I was fighting for my life, okay? So if I get this pronunciation wrong, blame it on him, not me. Hi. So where I live, it's believed that there's a mythical creature living amongst us called Genderuwo. They're known to be pranksters, mostly moving stuff, scaring people, but the stories I've heard multiple times was Genderuwo kidnapping kids. My mom would use this exact phrase, "Genderuwo will kidnap you if you don't come home before dark," to keep me from getting home late after playing outside. So yes, I've heard multiple stories, including a neighbor of my mom when she was a teenager kidnapped by Genderuwo. My mom was born in the 60s and grew up in a village, almost an hour away from where we live now, where there was no electricity. I remember my mom saying she had to use a lantern in her house and for when she was walking outside to get somewhere after sunset. So you can imagine how dark it was because there was simply no street lights or lights outside of people's houses. The kid, James, my mom's neighbor, suddenly disappeared when he was walking home in the dark after playing with his friends. That alerted the whole village and people started rallying to look for James. They knocked on people's houses, searched through patches of trees, looked through every inch of the place that they thought James could be found, but nothing. They didn't stop though and kept checking all the possible places, even the ones they've searched. If anyone was wondering why they didn't get help from the police, the station was really far from where it had happened and no one has a telephone. So since it's an emergency, the village tried their best by looking for James themselves. I think it took them more or less than an hour to find a breakthrough. They heard James's cry. It was coming from a big tree cavity, from a big tree that multiple people have passed by, but they didn't hear or see anything. James was tucked away in that tree cavity, and according to him, he couldn't move, but had tried to scream and call out for help when he saw the light from the lanterns. It was almost like he was in a different dimension, basically invisible to everyone that was looking for him. The Genderuwo was probably very satisfied or bored at playing pranks by then, and finally revealed James to everyone's eyes. What an asshole. The fact that my mom knew about the search and was literally living there was scary as hell. Of course, as a kid, I couldn't take any chances of Genderuwo snatching me and hiding me on a tree cavity. Being invisible is literally one of my biggest fears. I haven't heard any kids being kidnapped by Genderuwo that happened in the present though. Either way, I hope I won't ever cross paths with that creature. Ever. Y'all, when I hear a cryptid story, I am locked in. Some people kinda say I look like Bigfoot, but anyway, back to the story. Y'all, jokes aside, I hope James is all good cause I have never heard about people getting stuck in a tree cavity. And the fact that no one hurt him even though they were all passing by him, that is horrifying. And y'all, the author said the town was dark. And if I saw him in the dark, y'all know how I feel about the dark. And just seeing him there, in the dark. Him, the dark, him, in the dark. I'd be done for, bro. I'm so cooked. But you know what? I'm glad that everyone was safe at the end of the day. I mean, I know James kinda got free trauma from that. So even though Genderuwo was kind of a dick for doing that, he kinda brought a community together. And you know what? That's a small dub we can take. One time, I was downstairs sweeping the floor while my mom, brother, and sister were upstairs. As I was in the hallway, I was sweeping next to the gap between the hallway, the basement door, and the kitchen when I saw a tall, completely white man with no face, no shirt, and blue shorts in our backyard. I froze for a bit before going upstairs to tell my mom about it. The first time, she didn't see anything, so she just sent me back down to finish my chores. But when I went up there again, my mom checked, didn't see anything again, but I was able to stay upstairs this time. My mom didn't call the police, but I never saw that man since that day, so I don't know what to think about it. Y'all, do you ever wonder why ghosts do this? Like, they just show up for 1 second and the next second they're gone. And now you look like a dumbass when you tell people what you saw. Like, at least stay consistent, you know? Like, let's all get scared instead of trying to gaslight me in front of all my friends. Also, Loki, hear me out. Why is his drip kinda whack? Like, Slenderman kinda had the same build, but like, at least he had drip, you know? He was showing up like a CEO mafia daddy from Wattpad. And this ghost is kinda pulling up in booty shorts like it's hot girl summer. Like, bro, what are you doing? And yeah, to this author, I'm kinda scared for you though. Like, let's just make sure we all keep our doors locked at night, alright? Before I even start story 3, I see a Philippines mention, so shout out to my Filipino goats out there. Anyways, we gotta lock in. I used to dorm in the Philippines, and one night, for no reason, everyone in the room woke up one by one, 10 minutes apart. My sister apparently didn't sleep at all because a dream was haunting her so badly that she couldn't even talk about what it was. Everyone in the room felt super uneasy and couldn't go back to sleep. When we noticed each other all awake at the dead of the night at like 3 a.m., one of our roommates, who's very superstitious, told my sister that someone must have been watching her back with bad intent and passed a bad spirit to her. She told my sister that the only way to get rid of the spirit was to go outside and bite on a tree hard enough to leave indents. She did so and came back, and we were able to go back to sleep after that. That same tree, about a week later, became deceased and had to be removed by the campus. She still doesn't talk about what the dream was. And sometimes I think what happened is a bit silly, but I do not fuck with anything spiritual in the Philippines. If someone tells me I have a bad spirit, I'm believing it. Guys, I don't mess with evil spirits either, y'all. If someone says there's a demon behind me and that I need to bite that fucking tree, I am biting that fucking tree. That tree will have a comically large bite mark on it. Okay, but I just gotta say, imagine being an outsider looking in on the situation and seeing someone taking the fattest bite out of a tree with no context like that. Bro, I'd look at that and be like, wow, world hunger really is real, dude. All my doubts would be cleared up right then and there. But yeah, I'm just saying, if this situation happened to me, I'd be sleeping with both eyes open, y'all. That's so scary. When I was very little, my dad's business was improving, and that attracts some jealousy from people. And whether you believe it or not, some people in my country would actually do some voodoo shit to the people that make them jealous. That's what happened to my family. My mom already noticed a lot of weird things happening. There was suddenly an army of caterpillars in our front yard, crawling on the ground, when we never had problems with caterpillars or any other pests, even though my mom has a lot of plants and flowers. Then, when our roof was leaking, my parents decided to fix it by calling someone. The person then found a small white cloth near the drain of the roof. It was wrapped, and inside it was a flock of hair, a tooth, needles, and other stuff that I don't remember, but I'm pretty sure there was more. They got rid of it by setting it on fire. They never found out how it got there or who the culprit was, but it was super creepy. Guys, with this story and the last, regardless of if you believe in ghosts or not, the whole idea of black magic or doing weird shit to people you dislike, that is so evil, bro. Cause I feel like at the end of the day, the real horror is what people would do to you to see you at your lowest. Cause y'all, therapy is free. Doing inner self work is very free. But there's always these shady family members who jump through hoops just to get a strand of your hair and do this shit. So I hope both of these authors are okay, cause I can imagine how scary that must have felt. So yeah, humans can be really evil, so stay safe with that, y'all. So picture a group of 4 middle school girls gathered in this house deep in the woods. We decide it's a fantastic idea to play a game of manhunt. The game where all but one person hides after the sun has set with all the lights off. The seeker has to go and find everyone in the pitch black, and the hider's goal is to not be found. I went to the laundry room and hid behind an extra refrigerator next to the washing machine. Standing across the other half of the room, I see one of the other girls, Kendra, enter. We make eye contact as she hid on the other side of the room. As I make eye contact with this girl, I see her putting a finger to her mouth in a shh motion. I nod my head in understanding. We sit across from one another for only a few minutes when the friend who was seeking, Kara, entered the doorway and was able to find both of us. As I started to walk out, I looked over to Kendra and said, "Okay, time to come on. She found us both." To which Kendra pops up behind Kara. Kendra tells me she was found some time ago hiding in another spot across the house, nowhere near where I was. Here's the thing. None of the other girls hid on the other half of the room from me, and they were all hiding somewhere else in the main part of the house. Maybe it's a trick of the eyes in the dark, right? Nothing too serious, yet I still felt uneasy. Strike one. After some time, we decided to call it a night and go into Kara's room to wind down for bed. We're all sitting under Kara's bedroom window, next to her bed, when we hear a loud thump. Maybe it was her parents, or maybe it was her one-eyed cat. Except her parents went to bed hours ago, and her cat is right in the middle of us, nowhere near the sound. We go and investigate like the Scooby-Doo gang because we thought that was a great idea, and we find a large book Kara was reading on the floor. Strange, but no big deal. So the book is placed back on Kara's dresser, and we return to what we were doing across the room. Except we hear another loud thud and find the book back on the ground. Kara puts the book back, and as soon as her back is turned, the book falls to the ground again. Odd, but maybe the book was kept too close to the edge. So this time, it's pushed all the way to the back of the dresser. And then for the third time, we hear the thump. It has been launched across near where we sat by the window. Strike 2. None of us slept well that night, and all of us returned home to our respective homes. By this point, I was sure there was something not right going on. A few weeks later, I'm back at Kara's home. It's just us and her parents this time. Kara had just gotten her newest iPhone at the time. I believe an iPhone 4S. So feel free to let that age me. Kara leaves both the new and the old phone on her dresser before we go to bed for the night. Upon waking up, we find her old iPhone screen completely shattered. Not cracked. It looks like a brick had been taken to the screen with how the break spider webbed out. Strike 3, and I was out of there. Despite that, I would still stay over at Kara's for the next several years to come, up till we graduated high school. However, I never let myself actually fall asleep there. I would lay awake listening to the eerie sounds of the cuckoo clock as it ticked all night. It was never discovered what I actually saw shushing me from across the room that night, all those years ago. You know what? I gotta applaud this author, cause what do you mean you had 3 strikes you stayed for? Bro, I would have left the house screaming as soon as they suggested turning off the lights. I don't F on the dark like that, dude. And also, how do you genuinely not tweak out after seeing Kendra re-emerge right behind Kara? Like, how were you not questioning this more than you should have? Guys, I promise you, if I visited Kara's home, I would have returned back a bald young man. because I would have lost all my hair from the stress. Like, how is Kara even managing to live there on a daily basis? I mean, this kind of reminds me of a question I asked in one of my previous videos. If you know, you know. Go ahead and watch that after this video. But would y'all stay in a house with confirmed demons and ghosts inside of it if it was on the cheaper side? And I'm curious to see which one is a more popular opinion here, cause, I mean, in this economy, I guess I'd get why Kara might have stayed there, if you know what I'm saying.
What the hell?
Hi Snowbird, I just want to say I love your content and your art is so cute. Anyways, to the spooky story. So this happened when I was little and in elementary school. So in my elementary school, there were lots of rumors of how the bathrooms were haunted. Running sinks, spray paint appearing overnight, lots of stuff. And silly little me was like, it's not real. The bathrooms aren't haunted. Little did I know, I was about to experience something strange. So I was in class, right? I had to go to the bathroom badly, so I went. And when I entered the bathroom and entered the stall, I heard a whole class of girls rushing into the bathroom. They sounded like they came from gym, so I didn't think much of it. But when I tell you they were being so loud, I mean it. Sinks turning on, toilets flushing, screaming, laughing. I was so annoyed of the noise that I yelled out loud, "Stop screaming!" But it was like no one could hear me. When I peeked my head under the stall, my face literally went pale because I realized there was nobody in the bathroom. I flushed the toilet and as soon as I exited the stall, the scream stopped at once. And all I could hear was a single sink running. Y'all, at that point, I'm flushing myself down the toilet. Like, I don't care if I have swamp ass. I'm running out of that school and living life with only my 4th grade education in hand. And y'all, you know what the worst part about this is? How would you even convince someone that this is true? Because this person was a kid, right? And notoriously, in horror movies or even in real life, no one takes kids seriously. So yeah, I hope this author isn't perpetually constipated from that trauma. You know what? I'll cross my fingers for you and I'll hope that every public toilet you enter is sparkling clean and silent. Anyways guys, we actually have one more story, and you know with Late Night Latte, I love ending my videos with something unique, something emotional, so buckle in. Hi, I love your videos. It's not a very scary story, but the only paranormal experience I've had personally was when I was 2 years old. My mom and dad were pretty young when they had my older brother and I, which led to my dad working just about constantly when we were little. One summer, my dad's side of the family had a family reunion where we all went camping. My dad had to work the first part of the weekend, so my parents decided that my mom and the kids would go up to the campsite where everyone else went, while dad would meet us up there once he was done working. My mom was very apprehensive, mostly because my uncles and their families were in the camping trailers while we were in the tent, and it's a little scary having 2 toddlers in the woods. However, she trusted our extended family to help out and keep us safe until dad arrived the next day. Soon enough, night falls and my mom takes my brother, who was 5, and me, who was 2, to the tent to go to bed. Everyone sleeps through the night, and my mom wakes up excited for my dad to arrive. As we were getting ready for the day, out of nowhere, I asked, "Who was that man who looked in our tent last night?" "Yeah," pipes up my brother. "He unzipped the tent a little and stuck his head in and smiled at us before zipping it back up." Of course, my mom is immediately horrified. She tries to rationalize though. Maybe one of our uncles was just checking in on us. She does her best to ask for more details, trying to stay calm. My brother and I clumsily explain, and we described him. And then a sense of peace washed over my mom. While our description of the man didn't match our uncle's, it did match what my mom's dad had looked like, our grandpa. Our grandpa had passed away when my mom was only 4 years old, so the two of us had never met or seen him, but we somehow described him as she would have. It wouldn't be fully confirmed until later when my mom showed us some scrapbook photos and we confirmed it was the same man. My mom likes to say that he knew how stressed she was without her husband, so he came to check in on us and protect us that night. While my mom remembers the story the best, every time she tells it, I get a really peaceful feeling. Something I remember feeling when the story happened. Not sure how much I believe in ghosts these days, but I do believe my grandpa really did just want to keep us safe that night. Guys, these emotional ones always get me. Like, y'all really know how to get into my feels. It's just so sweet because it must have been a really scary and stressful moment in time for your mom because she was sleeping alone and taking care of these two kids on her own. And then having that peace of knowing that her dad is still watching over her. Oh, I'm so sad. Y'all don't look at me. You know what, guys? Maybe the moral of the story is maybe not every ghost is a bad one. Maybe some of them are looking out for you. And I still think the real problems are the humans. So yeah, I just think the story was the perfect one to end it off with. And it's just kind of a reminder to love and appreciate the people you still have around you. But yeah, guys, I would love to hear your ghost stories or spooky experiences in the comments as well. And as usual, if you'd like to submit your story as well, make sure you follow me on Instagram because that's where I post about the forms where you can submit your stories, or subscribe to my YouTube and keep an eye on my community posts. And I hope you had a spooky time with me. Huh? Wait, what? You see Freddy Fazbear behind me? What do you mean?